Thanks to joining the channel here over on Subscribestar. So first of all, Meliki Maka and happy Yule. So Willow, holy cow, really has to be seen to be believed. If you've watched some of these streaming shows, you're probably wondering what is going on. Especially if you're over a certain age and you remember TV shows from your youth and the movies, and then you look at the stuff that's being offered now, and you're like, it's unrecognizably bad. Stuff like She-Hulk, Rings of Power, House of Dragons. Though I hear there's some fans of House of Dragons, or whatever the new one's called. Oh yeah, House of Dragons from Game of Thrones. Wheel of Time, and finally we come to Willow, which is on another level. To refresh your memory, the original came out in 1988 with Val Kilmer. He was actually in a lot of good movies. Top Secret, I think, was probably the best. As a lighthearted human character, sort of a comic lead, but not a comic relief. He had a redemption arc as all the characters had challenges to overcome. It's like that just seems like cliche storytelling 101. Yes, it's cliche storytelling 101 if you wish to tell a good story. Master telling the simple story well. That is that is beyond our capabilities, my good man. So the characters are not stereotypical good or blonde man bad as they are today. They were in the original film at least as complex as the time frame of a 90-minute movie would allow. And the movie was simply a good kids movie. It was George Lucas's film, which I think I probably forgot about. That's it. It was one of the dozens of good kids movies from the late 70s to about 1990. Val Kilmer meets the cute daughter of the Wicked Witch, and they have a little bit of wooing, which nowadays would look like a patriarchal struggle snuggle with systemic systems of oppression and marginalized, indigenous, disenfranchised, insert Frankfurt School Marxist terms here. It's why everything sucks now. Sucks, and it's going to get worse. Hard to imagine, right? But it's like, yeah, it's progressively been getting worse. It's like, at some point, they're going to run out of money. Yeah, at some point, but they have a lot of money to run out of. You're talking about Amazon, Netflix, Disney, Warner Brothers. They're sitting on a lot of access to resources. Now, because they have this imaginary set of cultural Bolshevik rules that they have to follow, but it's all nonsense. Their conclusion doesn't follow from their argument, and they make no effort to like analyze or counter arguments or have any rebuttals. It's like it's all conclusion instead of issue, rule, analysis, conclusion. We're starting with a conclusion, and then we're gonna repeat the conclusion, and then we're gonna conclude with the conclusion. But you haven't proven anything. You haven't shown anything. It's like yeah, we don't have to. We control the networks. That works. That is an advantage. I will give you that. But they don't let anything stop them. They just double down and demand more BLT, POX, otherkin representation in shows that they don't make the shows, and they definitely don't watch the shows because shows like this, nobody is watching. They're literally asking for movies to be turned into propaganda. No exaggeration. That's the definition of propaganda, where you have GLAD or those kind of Bechtel type of tests, where they have a checklist of allotments for different characters to be shown in movies. Like, okay, so what about the Irish? How much Irish time do they have in the movies? Or what about the Germans or the Russians or the Swedes? Oh, we don't view those people as humans. Oh, okay then. Nice talking to you. Yeah, that's the definition of propaganda. When you have a checklist, that's the purpose of modern movies. That's how they see movies now, to push globalist propaganda. Like, what about escapist entertainment? Well, the thing is, well, obviously those days are long gone. But you can, as I do, roughly divide movies into if you had to view things through grinding my axe of globalism versus nationalism, like a worldview binary for pop culture. But I also think, like I keep repeating it because I think it's a valuable way to start the binary of viewing movies. Are you reinforcing globalist propaganda or nationalist propaganda? And up until very recently, like written stories are one way; they're going to be nationalists, and then the Hollywood machine is globalist. Ever since about post-war, they kind of took the mask off on that. It's why everything you see is blonde man bad. It makes for pretty boring storytelling, where you can you can look at the cover of a comic book or a DVD, assuming they still sell those, and you see the characters on the cover and go, "Oh, I can tell you the protagonist and antagonist." How could you possibly know that? because once you've seen it 1,000 times, you've seen it. Or you'll see like a BLT theme in a show, but there's no demand for it. In fact, most people don't want to see it. It's actually a negative for the show, but yet they put it in there anyway. But in movies, they put it in background clips, so it can be edited out for China, the Middle East, and Africa, because of course those areas don't allow it, and of course Hollywood happily edits it's out. They only want to spread the propaganda for Western audiences, which really sort of activates the elements. Anyway, so Willow, the original movie, connected with an audience, sort of a fantastic European folklore vibe. It worked because the characters fit the roles. They all look like they belong together, which is probably hat speech now. That means they came from the same environment that helped shape them and their worldviews. The story looked authentic. It's the great split between nationalism and globalism. But nothing European is allowed to remain unaltered. It must be subverted and corrupted. They will destroy everything. Tear down the statues, erase your stories, burn your churches. It will be as if you never existed. Now, Willow, the modern Frankfurt School version, is peak Weimar. It's painful to watch. I don't think it's the 81 cents that this video is going to make. It's not worth it to watch it, but watch it, I did. But to properly discuss it, I mean, obviously a lot of this stuff is like a labor of passion, because to not comment on the stuff that's going on around you is to acquiesce to it. It's to not actively take a stand against this stuff, I think, is evil. And the thing is, even to properly discuss it, I can't even use the words and phrases I need. But let's focus on the one glaring bit of stupidity. The people don't look like they belong together. How dare you, sir? You've got Europeans, Middle Easterners, Africans, and Asians. So why exactly are they all living together in this fantasy universe? Because it's a fantasy universe, bigot. Yeah, but it still has to make sense. I mean, people are shaped from their environments. Like, how does that work? It's just a movie about space wizards. Yeah, but I mean they said about Star Wars and go, but the original Star Wars trilogy, it all worked together, it all made sense, and then Disney took it over, and now suddenly it doesn't make sense, and it's like they don't have an answer to that, so they have to deflect and ad hominem. The thing is, why would they live together? Different tribes hate each other. What we see do you see this kind of cancer on screen, and then you juxtapose it to the real world? It is painfully stupid. But even to discuss it, we'll have the Twitter showboys outraged. Yikes, my guy! There is grass that needs to be touched. Bad take, friendo. Just yikes. And you look at the people who are saying this stuff, and their image, they just look exactly like you'd expect them to look. So I mean, you're giving people cancer, and then you get offended when they call it rightfully what it is. I didn't make this Bolshevik propaganda. The original movie was good. 88, it worked. It had a fantasy universe where people look like they belong together. Now, did Lucas do the Dark Tower also? That was another good, I think, 80s. Or no, not the Dark Tower. The one with the puppets? No, shit, was that Jim Henson? The one with the puppets, the Dark Crystal or something? The Dark Crystal, that's right. The thing is, even in a fantasy universe, people have to look like they belong together. Now, this new version is just like a fantasy universe, but you fucked it to death with a cringe dick, then you jizzed in our mouth and called us phobic. Sorry. There are some positives. The sets, the costumes, all the technical stuff was good. Even the actors, except for that one lead girl. This chick has to be replaced. She's not landing with anyone. And I'm not the only person. So even the Forbes reviewer talked about her and said everyone hates her for some reason. The story, she doesn't like, she just, I don't know, there's something wrong about her. The show sucks, but they did do one interesting thing, sort of, in this abomination. They made the chief sort of bad girl, who turns out to not exactly be a bad girl, a pox walks furry otherkin. So from this Euro vibe story, they have all this mixed race tribes living together in the forest, which again doesn't make any sense, but it was probably a whole lot of fun to film. I mean, none of this makes sense. Even for cringe farming current year, you keep coming back to the question of, so why exactly are all these different tribes living together? Why aren't they among their own people? The thing is, it's not insurmountable to fix this, taking everything you have, except for the writers, for the love of God. You got you wouldn't have to get rid of anyone. You just take everyone who's in the show, and you literally keep all the same actors. You just put them in their natural tribes. You could do that to every show that has come out recently, instead of having them. So you got one mixed group of people on one side, they're the antagonists, and then the same mixed group of people who are the protagonists I mean, so what are you fighting for? It's like, well, that's our mixed tribal commercial zone. But you're not fighting. People fight for their tribe. It's like that's the core motivation is bloodlines, and it's like, oh, we're all just a mixed group of people. Yeah, but under pressure, people immediately devolve to tribalism. It's like making a Hollywood fantasy universe doesn't change anything. It's like, so who are the good guys and the bad guys? That's real. That's like real istophobic of you to assume that there are good guys and bad guys. It's actually more complicated than that, Mr. Hugo Boss. But people of different tribes don't live together. This doesn't make any sense, but you know, in cocaine fueled Hollywood world, it does make a lot of sense. All you had to do is put people together in their natural tribes, but they insist on mixing everyone together. So it's like, well, why exactly are they mixed? I never really got the answer to that. Why is every show showing people at the first stage of mixing? They did it in the Dark Tower movie also, where they come to some town and there's like an African dude and an Asian chick, and it's like there's a lot of couples like that that scene. And you look at the town, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? So you guys all just met like this first generation, and you just got together because after like 10 generations, you're all going to look alike. You're going to be a new tribe forming. So I can't help but notice that every Hollywood movie is like that. It's just all these kind of tribes coming together. And the thing is, none of it makes sense. But to be fair, the audience that pays to see it, if you know what I'm saying, is pretty deep into the bread and circuses. It's just, at this point, it's just pretty images on screen. There's no brain power required. And yeah, it's for kids. It's to spread cultural Marxism among kids. Say, what are you talking about? It was always like this. It's like, yeah, but the original stuff is also out there. You go back and watch the original Willow, and it's like, it's what it is like the mainstream is like hearing a guitar badly tuned, and you're like plinking out a simple tune on a badly tuned guitar. It's like you can hear it. Let It Be. Everyone learns that on guitar or piano. Dun 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 dun. You can start at any key you want, and it's like hearing that, like it would be like hearing me play it. It's like you'd hear the song in there, but it's nothing to write home about. And then it's like hearing a symphony. To watch the original Willow is like hearing, you know, the professional musicians put the song together. And you're like, oh, this is what it's supposed to sound like. It's the whole experience of the symphony orchestra is what the original Willow, which was just a simple kids film for the time period. But compared to this new stuff, it's like none of this is making sense. Why are you making something? It's been 30 years and you're making something that's worse than the original. That's not how you're supposed to cover songs. You cover songs or stories when you think you can bring something new to the table or you can surpass it in a different way. It's like you're bringing something to the table that's worse by every metric. Why are you doing this? Oh, because it's cultural Marxism. We're trying to tell kids that this is the way it always was, and hoping they're not going to go back and watch the original stories, whether it's anything that comes out. And you know, most of the times they're right. That's the insidious part of cultural programming is kids are being exposed to this and they think, oh yeah, I saw Willow. I'm familiar with Willow. I don't know, is this Amazon? I think. You go, no, actually it's, or no, I guess is it Disney because it's Lucasfilms. I don't know. I'm obviously not. I found it online. If you know what I'm saying. They're not going to go back and watch the original Will, and if they do, suddenly it's like that's a red pill a journey for them to go back to watch anything that's come out recently, and then go back to watch the original. Like, oh, and then the thing is, the white pill is we have alt media with which to carry this message. Oh, I'm on Rumble too. On Rumble and Odyssey has all the videos. They're echoed over there also. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.